Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and Mike and I have agreed that he's ready and I'm ready, and we're hoping you're ready for tonight's Inside News. Hello, Mike, you are ready.
Yes, I am. Uh, yes, and you may have noticed last night, if you tuned in at this time, that we weren't here. And we had a little bit of a technical difficulty where uh, I couldn't get my camera inputs to my computer to stay up and running. So
But where were we, Mike?
instead, we record. Well, okay. We were at the Fruitdale Grange, and there was a candidates event there that we were covering. And in a nutshell, we just had technical difficulties and couldn't make it happen. That's the short, non-technical explanation. The just as short, more technical explanation is this little item here, which is USB 3.0 on one end and HDMI on the other, is what allows us to carry those events live. And unless your USB 3.0 ports on your computer are functioning properly, you will not be able to do this. And that's what was happening last night. I couldn't get it to be stable enough in order to broadcast, and working on the issue. And so future live events, I think, will come off just fine, as they have in the past.
And Mike's been just running his USB ports off the vehicle and working very hard to. That was 2 in a row. That was, let's see, this is Thursday, so that was both Tuesday and Wednesday that we had these live events. Now, you'll find them on the front page of badcounty.com and also on my election website. But, okay, so if you go to this one right here, Educate the Vote, you'll see for 3 hours, a 3-hour tour, what happened last night at the Fruitdale Grange. Now, the night before, we were in Merlin, and tonight's show is going to start off with a little clip from Merlin. Some of you have not seen any of the reaction videos to people's speeches and etc. In this case, what had happened is it was the end of a long period, and all of the candidates, including Tony Webb, I was surprised. There she was, and she was speaking, and they all had a chance to sum up for 3 minutes what their statements would be. Please vote for me. Now, Tony's running against Keith Heck, and she had a number of things to say about herself, and just before her was Keith Heck, and just before him, and just before him. And so everybody got their statements, and there was a little bit of jumping on other candidates, but mostly not, and everybody was taking their turn. Well, you have noticed, because you watch this show, that many times at the weekly business session, when someone will get up and say something, the commissioners just can't stay quiet. They have to stop the person, interrupt them. You know, as Cheryl Walker said, what was that she said? Let me disperse the ignorance.
No, it was. No, that's what she actually was doing. Boy, and now I forget, because you normally ask me using what she said, and it's not.
Let me dispense with it. Well, close to get rid of the ignorance in the room. Oh, that's a nice way to put it. Anyway, they're constantly stopping us because they are the imperial elite, and they can say anything they want to at any time, because we're just the mere citizens, and they are the court. There's the little prince and the king and the queen, and then they can just stomp on us anytime they want to. So here is Tony Webb saying the very last part of her statement, and then suddenly all that comes rushing back to Keith Heck, and he decides he wants yet another chance to make a closing statement. Watch this. It's a poor Keith Heck. He just can't help himself.
And as far as involving the citizens, I plan to involve all the citizens, and since Commissioner Heck brought up the Gospel Rescue Mission, I would like to say that during his time there, and still today, they do not allow women on the board and I think that's a travesty for this county, and I will be advocating for all the citizens in the county. So Tony Webb, position 2. Thank you.
And while you're talking, I'm gonna recap that. There's a board that ran the gospel reservation. I'm sure, recognize. I lobbied to have the women on the board, and the board turned that down. That was just a process. You weren't.
He's such a nice guy.
Gospel Rescue Mission. Here he is, still representing them.
I wouldn't necessarily cast aspersions on everybody involved in the gospel rescue mission, but certainly Keith Heck cannot control himself. And it's funny because what was it? Didn't you go up to him after the whole thing was over?
I did. It's not very nice, Mike. Yes.
Yeah.
And I said, so are you going to allow us to blurt out in all your meetings from now on also?
Yes, right. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, the thing obviously in his mind, the meetings that we have down there are operating at a different level than meetings that are being held under a certain set of rules anywhere else. So.
Everybody was obeying the rules. That's a lot of people. There were 16 candidates there, and you can't be doing that kind of stuff. I insist on having another chance. Keith, it doesn't work that way.
He didn't help his case.
No, he didn't.
She said something, and you know, he could have just, you know, let it go and went, well, whatever. And he would have been way ahead of the game, but that one got under his skin, and
well, it's getting easier and easier.
Yeah.
Here's one that you have seen, and this is from the Lipsick meeting, and this is where Darren Fowler is being very insistent. It's almost like Darren Fowler is running the meeting, and he's very insistent on finding out what the heck it is that the commissioners are going to do. What are they actually going to do? How soon are they going to call the governor down here? Because this guy is moving back and forth in this seat, Darren Fowler, and he can just hardly wait until we get this thing going. Come on, you know, we're not going to be paying attention to the vote of the people anymore. When are we going to impose this on everybody? And so here's Keith Heck being well, not exactly cooperative with one of his allies on something in which he believes. Here we go. This is great.
I mean, my practice.
Oh, no, I goofed that up. Sorry, I got to restart that. My problems. But you'll see why in a moment, because I had to do a swish pan to get over to him.
A swish pan.
Is that the plan if there was? Let's say you go all the way through and start taking some sort of aid, emergency aid from the state. Is that something the commissioners will decide, or do you think you'd use this body to gather some input on that?
You're about 8 miles down the road from where we are right now.
I'd still like to talk about it.
At mile 7, I'll be happy to. I mean, my practice has been, okay, I'm not sure if you're shaking your head for people on the answer. That's good.
No, please finish.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just cantankerous old geezer, and I'll not be having any you young whippersnappers. You know, regardless what you think.
Your head.
Yeah, regardless what you think of, you know, Darren Fowler and his hyperactive activity on that board, and
carrying AK-47s around town. Come on.
Yeah, that's just hyperbole.
Well, so he finds it now impossible to be patient with anybody at any time. And if you question Keith Heck, get prepared, because as happened when I mentioned something about the OGEC, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. No, we're not, you know, you cannot say that we've been found guilty of anything because just the mere idea that we're not ethical is, well, but they have. And all this time that they were denying, no, it's not true, it's not true, you're not a lawyer, you don't know anything, and all the rest, that whole time, They had been already found guilty. We know that now, for sure, in writing, and this was the penalty phase, just like I said, and several others said, and all their denials were just poof. Now, they may continue to say, well, we still plan on appealing this. They've already signed the documents. Now, what are you going to appeal?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, total impatience. Okay, so we're going to go back one more, and we're going to go back to the candidates meeting that we had in the Black Bear. Now, you may recall that when we played back those candidates' statements, we played them back for 14 days in a row. But we gave everybody their chance to say their thing. But there was a question and answer period that followed all that. And there were a number of
just for a correction there, we did it 14 days in a row just for the Cave Junction event. And previously to that, I believe there were 9 candidates that were at that Black Bear event. And we did that for 9 days in a row preceding the Cave Junction event. So there's been a lot of content out there, but yes, and what he's talking about was in the first meeting at the Black Bear, in which I think there were 9 there. Yeah.
Right. And you can find all of these right here. They're still up here. And the one that we're talking about here is this one right here with the round button. Okay, so this one starts off with a question. All the candidates, as far as I recall, except maybe Harris. I don't recall her being there, but all of the candidates were asked a question or two. Some of them were asked more questions than others. And you could say, well, I can understand how someone might get a little sensitive. Let me tell you, when Joseph Rice is being asked a lot of questions, Dan DeYoung is getting flooded with questions. What do you mean, you know, the sales tax and I would, we did that for the people kind of thing. Right, okay. But Keith Heck was asked some questions. He's a sitting commissioner. It's kind of standard that you would be asked questions. So it started off with a question about economic development and how the money is being spent. And it was Vic Nakudian who decided to ask this question. And this sounds pretty good. It was a slightly dark room, so I've done the best that I can to try to make it visible for you. Here we go, and we will stop and start this one. Just listen to this.
I heard a rumor that the commissioners have promised they won't be handing out cash to, private businesses anymore. Because people are really angry about the road roasters thing. Very. A lot of people are upset. So is that commitment true?
Okay. Rogue Roasters. You want to take that one on, Mike? Got good time, bud.
Well, I didn't realize that's where you were going with this, but yeah, the Rogue Roasters thing is, the commissioners have been giving a certain amount of economic development money out to different organizations and or businesses. And this particular situation, they gave 50,000. They gave. Not a loan, they granted $50,000 to Rogue Roasters, just for being wonderful. And they were moving from their old location to their new location. I guess they needed that money or something.
But they weren't enticing them into the county. They were already here.
Yeah, they were.
And Roasters stuff they did, my understanding was mostly inside Grants Pass City, but I may be wrong about that. And it's at the expense of Dutch Brothers. Really?
Yeah, and is this some sort of a socialism thing where we're trying to even the playing field for businesses, where we choose, we think you are more, somehow deserving of having this money than some other company. And you're in here in a town that's pretty much dominated by a $250 million a year business, which is Dutch Brothers. And so we're going to give you $50,000. I don't understand the rationale behind it. Rogue Roasters was doing very well before. Their coffee is highly acclaimed. It's been given awards all over the state, and so they're doing fine. They don't. Yeah, they don't need any help from anybody. But listen, you know what? I mean, if you're running a business and somebody says, "Hey, how about $50,000?" Oh, don't worry about paying it back.
Don't worry about paying it back. Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Well, we're in an emergency state with supposedly with our law enforcement, and are giving away as a gift $50,000, where in other counties they give economic development money to their sheriff's department. We don't.
Yeah.
Don't. We
Well.
could. Now, maybe this is close to the hearts of some of you. We give away money, although they've said many times that we don't. We do. I'm sitting right there. I watch them do it. We give away money to the library. Okay. And one of the latest reasons we gave them economic development money is because they were revamping, they were improving the children's section. Now, I grew up in libraries, right? Tell me, please, that we're going to get economic development, literally, out of an improved children's department. I'm not saying it's not a nice thing, but that's not economic development.
Yeah, no, this is the it's kind of infuriating a little bit that they sort of define economic development as whatever they want to, and they have they've been saying, oh, the law states we can't give this economic development money to the sheriff. I've read through all the laws and the laws which are quoted within the law, and read all of those too. And this idea that it's against that law somehow to use this economic development money for the sheriff is a subjective interpretation. And
Well, it's
listen,
against the law passing levies.
Yeah,
You can't pass a levy if you alleviate the problem.
well, and listen, Cheryl Walker said on, I believe, December 10th of last year in a meeting there in the back room that they can use economic development money for whatever they want to. And the state has very loose guidelines, and I think it's set up for the purpose of allowing people some leeway. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what she said.
That is
And,
what.
So the bottom line is again, as it relates to using economic development money for alleviating the law enforcement fiscal emergency that we have, it's certainly doable. It really is a matter of will on the part of the commissioners, not a matter of can you or can you not.
Yeah, we've got an emergency situation in the children's department of the library. Here we go. Back to Vic.
And is going to be kept at least until the end of your current term, and hopefully, and if you're to get reelected, we keep that until this county has such prosperity that can afford to, dole out favors to private businesses again. Will you keep that commitment? No more handouts.
Well, and personally, yes, I'll keep that commitment. And that was also part of the reason why we have changed that whole direction. I mean, it's not just a matter of one person or three. I mean, this was, that money for economic development comes from the state for economic development. You can't use it to pave a road. It comes for economic development issues. I felt we got into a very bad situation when we, as the commissioners, were making a decision about what business or what entity to hand this money to. And that's not our expertise. So let's work through the small business development association group here in town. Let's let them work through it and process it. They are the ones who are vetting these companies that apply. They vetted Rogue Roasters in that application process. They were the last business that the commissioners will be directly involved in saying, we want the money to go there. In the future, the small business development will vet these businesses that see all the applications come in. They will give us a priority of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, and that's on the basis of where that money would go.
So there's the question of trust on that. See, I haven't liked Rogue Roasters because it's not loaded with sugar like some of the other places, but the public is thinking, wow, we'd like to have some input on this. If you guys are going to say, well, economic development, we think this business or that cost should get, maybe let the public, have a month to have something to say about it. Like,
Here it comes.
The wedding would say, does anyone have any
As
reason
a
this should
preacher,
not
as a
happen?
commissioner, that stuff is done. That has been done.
Okay.
It's not like all of a sudden, no, how come you don't let, for crying out loud? It's done all the time. There's
That's what I
never
mean,
a decision made. I think it's a great idea. Let's go vote on it, report, okay. It's not done that way. I mean, good grief of my, that's the frustration part sometimes.
And in truth, I wasn't part of that process, so I didn't see it
Well, right,
myself.
and I've never been to road roasters either. I
Ask
don't know.
about Cameron Camp.
Okay. Why did I just say that? Well,
I don't know, but before you go on to Cameron Camp, I think that we can all agree from the clips that we have seen that Keith Heck has a little bit of a problem tolerating other human beings. just their mere existence is very frustrating to him. And how dare you question anything, for crying out loud?
Well, I mentioned Cameron Camp because Keith Heck just told everybody that that was the last time they were going to do that. Isn't that what he just told everybody? Well, as it turns out, that wasn't the last time, and he knew it wasn't the last time because that same day, I believe it was that same day, they had scheduled Cameron Camp, who's got a business out in the IV, to come on in and talk with them about a grant and a loan from the commissioners. So the way the deal finally came down, because this was mentioned at this meeting, in my opinion, it may have been delayed because it was mentioned at this meeting by me, who goes to these meetings, is Cameron came in and he talked to them about a loan and also a grant, a gift. And we wanted to work out a deal where he didn't have to repay the loan. This was the original, I don't know how it turned out, and I'll tell you why I don't know how it turned out. He wanted to work out a deal where he doesn't actually pay back the loan. I mean, come on now. What he wanted to do was do little favors for the commissioners and maybe other county departments, and that would be.
Yeah, I'm interested in doing that with my mortgage. Maybe I should go talk to my bank and see if that we can work something out. I could come by and fix your toilet if it's broken.
Grow some tomatoes.
If your refrigerator isn't working, I can tell you why, maybe. And,
yes.
And tell you, whether or not you have a blown GFI outlet or, I mean, these are things I can do, and I'm more than willing to do that in exchange for, the rest of the mortgage on my house.
So when he said this to everybody in that room, I mean, this is more about curmudgeon Keith Heck rather than lying Keith Heck, but that was a lie. It's not true. So why is it that we don't know what that deal was? Well, you're going to love this. I mentioned this on the show already. When they got down to the point at which they were going to make a decision about what to do, it was an open public meeting in the little back room, of course. So they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to continue this meeting. They're not going into executive session, but we're going to continue without anybody in the room. What? And so you're going to have to leave. What? Because there won't be a quorum. That's why. Okay, there's not going to be a quorum in the room. And I said, Mr. Heck, will you be continuing talking with the others from your office? Because I've seen him do this. Well, that's none of your business. Mm-hmm. And besides, that's why we don't answer questions from you, Mr. Matthews. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what they did is they continued their meeting after they ushered me out of the room, because when there's not a quorum, they can say, okay, meeting's over. They can, but just as easily, Keith Heck can walk the several inches back into the room. They were having a meeting when I arrived and was sitting out in the hallway with the door locked and closed and locked when I arrived. And I could hear them in the room talking with Cameron Camp. And there were little bits and pieces that you can hear, but I'm not going to record through the door. That's just creepy. I'm not going to do that, okay? It's like Dave Toller standing at the door of Sandy Casanelli and listening to what's happening behind a closed door and then trotting out of the room as soon as he saw me. I'm not like that, okay? But I know they were doing that. That's breaking the law. And after I left, they continued in their conversation. Everybody in the room, the same people, except we're not there, are we? And what was the decision that they made? Do you know anything about that? I don't either, because it was a secret decision. This is the kind of lies, the kind of deception that must stop. So that's why I brought up Cameron Camp.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. I'm sure it'll come up.
Well,
This week. I mean, there's a rumor that there's another business lining up to get a handout. Is that true?
Why?
Yeah,
If they are, they have to go through the small business development to be vetted.
What's the deal?
Stop vetting anyone, put the money to public safety. We keep
You
hearing.
cannot put that
We keep
money,
hearing you can't have economic
Ma'am.
development if you don't have safety.
you cannot put that money to public safety. That money is bound by the state to go to the economic development. That is lottery money.
And how do you pick winners or losers in that?
I'm not saying that it is a good idea, a bad idea. I'm saying you can't break the law regardless of how great the idea is you think it should go for.
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't this the same fellow that said, I know we're breaking the law and I don't care?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and they're doing this anyway. Look, this just happened a couple of days ago.
Well, and they're using the law as an excuse when it doesn't apply. You know, they're using it because they know that they can do what they want, but they're telling you that they can't do it because of the law, and that isn't the truth. They're just using it as an excuse because they don't want to alleviate the emergency. Because that's the only possible thing that will get the people to willfully take money out of their pocket and give it to government, is if they're being threatened somehow. Their very safety.
You know, all evidence to the contrary, I don't like to use the word lie. However, when it's a lie, you have to point at it. You just have to. And you have to say, well, this is a lie. I mean, because you can say it too often and then it loses effectiveness. But there should be other words. Subterfuge. Well, the state came up with one. They called it a guise. Right? It was just, it's a deception. And they've been found guilty of deceiving the public and the state. Guilty. Okay, and well, you know, we knew what was going to happen. We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing, Mr. Matthews. We know the law. So they're giving a letter of education where they've already said they don't need a letter of education. Okay, but so here we've got these fellows saying, well, we can't possibly do any of this. Why? It's the law. It's the law. Just a couple of days ago, they had a meeting in the little back room where they were talking about, this was Thursday. No, today's Thursday. This was Wednesday because they changed the Thursday meeting to Wednesday, whatever. GFI. So these technical details. And so they were talking about Arthur O'Hare, the finance director, came in and was talking with them about grants. Wait a minute. What was it that Keith Eck was just telling us about grants? See, now, okay, the history of this is, and Mike knows this as well as anybody else, all that money to the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization to put a couple of ramps in a state park. It was going to create up to 214 full-time family wage jobs if we just give them the money. I want to know how many jobs has it created. Then they came back based on Flushed with Success that if they put a plaque on a rock, it's going to create 90 full-time family wage jobs as a gift. And their newest one, before Wednesday, their newest one was that they were going to put up another plaque, and this one was only going to create 12 full-time family wage jobs. Hey, wait a minute, what's going on out in the Illinois Valley?
Well, they're getting closer to reality anyway. I mean, that's
How
a
about
good
zero
thing.
full-time family wage jobs? Okay,
Yeah,
but they're being rewarded. So what's their newest reward? Hope you're sitting down while you're watching the show. the commissioners are going to give them $100,000. That's not going to the sheriff for emergency. There's an emergency out in the Illinois Valley, and they want to pick winners and losers and hand out money to their pals.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that really is aggravating to me about this, is because they could, if the will existed, they could take that money and give it to the sheriff. All $400,000 of the economic development money that's coming in. We could do that because, hey, we're in a public safety fiscal emergency, emergency. But instead, though, we're, loading up money into a cannon and just blowing it out as confetti. This type of decision making is typical of this board, to do this sort of thing, to just shoot money out of a cannon. The recent thing with the water testing, the software situation from some time back, and these guys,
$600,000,
and it's no biggie to these people. The thing is that here's the real problem. In their minds, that was a good thing to do.
They said so afterwards in their after action report. That we learned lessons. $600,000 worth.
Yeah, but the point is that this is the inclination of this particular board. You need to change the mindset on that board to a different mindset. These people are pretty well in alignment in their stupidity, if you're asking me. That's my opinion injected there, but they're in alignment in their ideology of how to run things here locally. I typically look at that type of activity that they're doing and go, that to me is incompetence. So we have to get in there and change the priorities, to change the level of scrutiny that we are giving to, approval of spending on certain things. We have to dig a little bit deeper, ask the public's opinion. Had they done that, had they gone to the public about this thing in the water, the water testing, they wouldn't have had to wait until Dale put out the video and showed people and made them aware in that way, so that they would then on their own go and do some testing. These things there could have been a dialogue back and forth with some of these people in the public who say, hey, wait just a minute here, because I'm seeing what you're doing, and why don't we on our own just go down there and take a couple of tests and see what we come up with? That would have circumvented the whole thing. Instead, we blew $77,000 before we were able to cut this thing off. Thank God we cut it off where it was. I mean, we'd still be on the money spending train had this not become public as a result of Dale there with the camera. So, hopefully in the future with more rational thinking on that board, we can have, just take it down a couple of notches. Don't try to do so much as a board, but be very deliberate about what you're doing and what the impact of that is going to be, and no consideration at all for legacy. I don't care about your legacy. No one else cares about your legacy. You're the only one who cares about your legacy as a commissioner. So knock it off.
Legacy. They got a legacy, buddy, and it's a mile long. They don't like their legacy. As we've heard Keith say a couple of times that he's come to commissioners forums, well, I'm proud of the things I've done.
Oh.
Would you mind listing some of them?
Do you have that clip loaded up? Because let me tell you, that is very interesting. That's a doozy, where somebody asked him, well, what are you most proud of in the last few? He was like, well, we didn't do anything, but I'm proud of everything.
Okay, I wanted mostly, sorry. I thought about putting that up because I found it amusing. But I wanted to stay away from the candidate statements during their time and concentrate more on the questions and answers, which I think shows you also a lot about their personality, and not be directly criticizing the things that they say in their stump speech. I hope that you guys all understand that. I'm in a kind of an odd situation when it comes to that. I don't mind showing, what Keith Heck has to say during the question and answer period, just not minutely criticizing a stump speech. That's all. Okay. So now we're going back to Keith, and I object to things. I expect they're making bad decisions. I don't like them lying to us to get away with the bad decisions. Here we go.
That money is from lottery money. And that's where they determine where that money goes.
No, they don't.
Determine where it goes. They tell us it goes to this business or this industry. Then we can say, these 10 businesses, they are worthy of this money or whatever.
That's completely false.
Public safety. If the money is restricted by the state, you can't spend it wherever you want to. That's one of the frustrations of sometimes people think of you have all this money, you can spend it wherever. No, you can't.
Yes, but not long ago, we saw a video of Cheryl Walker sitting there saying, hey, the state, everybody spends this money the way they want to, so we're going to spend this money to have somebody write stories about how great we are as commissioners, and we're going to call that economic development. So if you can call that economic development, you can sure as hell send some money over to the sheriff and call that economic development.
That's it.
Who is that loudmouth?
Opinionated view. But the point being is,
Here for the sheriff's department.
I thought somebody had asked me a question. I'm sorry. You had almost twice as long as I have when I was up there, so quiet. We have those kinds of restrictions on these monies that come, and that's one of the frustrating things about it. But you like to spend it there? The law says you can't. That's the only reason. The 3453 bill, please understand, the 3453 bill is dead. It died. It is no longer in action. People refer to the 3453 as bad, good, bad. The bill does not exist. It's gone.
Boy, he's
dollar bill is gone. It might have a reiteration.
Mike?
Yeah, I don't understand what he's talking about there.
He's lying.
Well, 3453. He's saying it's dead, as though somehow the intent of that bill is gone. No, it's passed into law. Now it is law 753, and
he's
it is
deliberately trying to deceive you. Deliberately trying to deceive.
Yeah, and he knows all of this stuff, and he thinks, well, you know what, I can get one over on these people because I'm the guy who knows all about this stuff because I'm living in that world, and these people don't, and I can and a few of them will know I'm lying, but who cares? It doesn't matter.
Well, fortunately for you, there's someone else who lives in that world, and I'm watching this stuff, and we're watching this stuff. We're going, that's just not true, Keith. He's living by the old rules where you could just say anything and you expected that people were going to believe you. But when you've got people watching you and videotape of you saying, I would never do that. Oh, I'm up for doing that. You can't get away with that anymore. You can't just flat out lie and expect that people go, oh, thank you for lying to. Nope.
Well, you know what, though? I got to tell you something. As effective as we believe that it might be to point out specific situations where, Keith is wrong about this, he's wrong about this, he's lying to you about that, whatever, I think it is far more effective. And I think that it reaches a lot more people, that Keith is just without the proper temperament to do this job. He does not like the people. He does not respect the people. He doesn't like to be questioned at all. And you know what? That's part of the job. Taking the heat, that's part of the job. And why don't you just calmly give us the straight and true answer, because you respect us and because you're a public servant. I'm not saying that you have to roll over. There may well be a time where you have to blast somebody with both barrels, but that's a lot further down the road than any of the examples that you saw here. I don't think that Viken was being disrespectful asking that question. And
when is it okay to call people names at a public meeting? To call them dirty, filthy names? When is that okay from a public?
I don't think it is.
Now I'm going to play a little bit more of this, and here's where we get into the dangerous part. I mean, dangerous for the county. You're going to wonder, well, why is he playing Andreas Blech talking? You're going to find out that, unfortunately, Keith's penchant for not paying close attention and also for disregarding people is going to have a direct effect. I was just talking to somebody, just called me today about this. Where can we get that footage? Watch this and you'll understand toward the end. Okay, here we go.
Come back in some other form. But please understand, sometimes we bark up a wrong tree so loud, and the people who know better, they go, the barker again.
So is that question, can we know? A very short requirement.
I'm not sure what 3450 question is not on the ballot. That's what I just got to say.
Oh, yes, it is. It was supposed to be an advisory question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Andreas Blech. Some of you might know me as Mr. Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel. My question to everybody in this room, besides Commissioner Heck, because I know he's very well versed in the ballot measures, who here knows about ballot measure 1768? Okay, shame on the rest of you, because this is a huge ballot measure that's going to have huge repercussions on property development, land development. What it does is it says to the county commissioners.
Okay. Don't get wrapped up, please. I'm asking you, don't get wrapped up in the technicalities of whether he's right or wrong or wronged or people are being unfair. This is not the question. The question is, should Keith Heck be discussing this in an open public meeting since he's involved in the decision process? Watch this.
We don't entrust you with making the quasi-judicial land use decisions, and that we, the public, want to control who gets to develop land and do land use changes. That's what it does.
Through ballots or something. Through ballots or
Through ballot, what it suggests. So what it does is it says that possibly in the future, let's say you redeveloped your land and had it rezoned for whatever reason, took it from forest commercial to rural residential. And if your neighbors don't like that, even though the commissioners through a legal way rezoned it, your neighbors through a ballot measure can take that away from you.
That's a very bad precedent for me.
Okay, one of the problems with that is apparently the commissioners did not do that through a legal way, and they've just had to resolve that because the Land Use Board of Appeals said, no, you did this wrong. The legal counsel gave them good advice this time and said, no, we're heading in the wrong direction. The planning director said, no, I don't think we should do this. A number of citizens said, don't do this. And now at the latest meeting, they were kind of laughing. Boy, we finally dealt away with that. They were forced to do so. Okay, so
yeah,
it wasn't legal, but sorry, I just had to insert
right.
that.
And if you don't mind, I am going to comment on what Andreas Blech said. I do not agree that the ballot is the proper place to put decisions about land use, because you could go lobby everybody in town to be against the guy who's going to do something on the piece of property next to you and stop him from doing it. And I think that is wrong. And it was the court threw it out. They said, yes, you cannot have that on the ballot. It's an improper use of that vehicle for making decisions. And so that has no bearing on what I'm thinking about Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel. That's, as a matter of fact, I'm not thinking anything about it because I don't know any. I've never been up there. I don't know anything about it. aside from what I've heard on this show, I'm not making any sort of decision, but I think when it comes to land use stuff, there is a proper place for that to be adjudicated, and it's not in the public, making choices about whether or not your neighbor gets to do what he wants to do with his land.
That's an important sidebar. I've asked you guys to please pay attention to whether Keith Heck, as one of the semi-judicial decision makers on this, should be offering his opinion about whether this guy is right or wrong when it's not over yet. Let's watch. This is what puts us, as a county, in danger.
Economic development within the county, because the guy invests all his money into it. The next thing you know, he's got approval from the county, approval from LCDC, and the next thing you know, the environmentalists stop it. And then it goes back to the county.
27 agencies have signed off on this. I've gone through this process for 8 years now. And my project could be potentially held up by a vote of the people in a ballot measure that is not even legal. I suggest you all go home and look up that initiative, 1768. This is huge. People don't realize how huge this can be, because this can send repercussions statewide. Instead of precedent, that would be frightening to anybody who wants to develop land here in the state of Oregon, not just Josephine County. I suggest you do your homework on it.
And being that I have been recused from that issue.
No, Keith. No, you haven't. You're thinking of the wrong issue. You're thinking of another one where you were recused. Doesn't mean he stepped down voluntarily. He was forced off because he was discussing the issues in a venue with people when you're not supposed to do that. And now this is another issue, and he's doing it again. It puts the county in legal jeopardy when Keith does this. He can't help himself. No, you have not been recused from this case.
If anybody wants to see the paradigm of somebody who has not just gone through a few hoops, but jumped through every hoop that could ever have been thought of being provided, that you have to jump through to get your project through. Andreas is the epitome of how to have met every issue there could ever have been met.
A judge cannot be advocating for one of the people appearing in front of him, which is exactly what he is now doing.
His issue was fixed by the environmental side that came by and said, the dump. Now it's all up for big hoo-ha. And like I said, I was recused from the hearing, and so I'm speaking now on my own, not on the other thing. But Andres is saying absolutely the truth, and we need to realize these things are not black and white. Yes, oh yes, this is a good common sense response. No, there are those who are willingly looking for ways to stop, slow us down, block us. I mean, it is actively involved, and sometimes, pardon me, we who are on the other side, and I consider myself that, we think just because I voice some objection to that, everybody's going to go, oh, wow. No. And I've been objecting now for 3 years. Okay, good. They were objecting consistently for the last 25 years, 50 years. They've been objecting, and now they are seeing the fruit of their consistent labors. And now we get involved. We want changes now. And it doesn't have the changes now. But we need to realize it takes us consistent, committed work to see some change come back around, because that's the way the other side plays. They don't play just for a quarter. They play the whole stinking game.
So I'm sitting in the room, and there's a couple other people who are going, oh, what are you doing? And the folks out in Sunny Valley are going, yes, yes. There you go. Another basis for appeal. Thank you very much, Keith Heck. Got to get this guy out of this office. He wakes up just long enough to do this kind of thing. It's a big mistake. Don't get involved in that kind of thing. You know, even if you're looking at it and say, well, you know, I don't know the technicality of the law. You know what's best? Shut up.
Well, and I would say, looking at that clip, you don't know the technicality of the law. Look at this guy's tone. again, the whole time this guy has been talking, he just cannot stand anybody injecting their opinion into it if it's somehow in disagreement with his, or even somebody. Listen, because as a commissioner, you're going to encounter people from the public all the time that are not necessarily educated on the issues that they're confronting you about. But the proper tone in a case like that is not to be condescending, not to be rude, not to be, impatient. It's just say, okay, I understand what you're feeling about this situation. Let me tell you how I see this issue, or let me explain this fine points to you, because I want you to understand, and then I want to hear your feedback afterward. That's the right way to deal with this situation. Instead, this guy, his patients are all gone now. And this is the same for Keith Heck at every venue I've ever seen him at. So let's move on to some fresh meat that can deal with people patiently, and with a good heart, for crying out loud. I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Would you mind putting a little tenderizer on this fresh meat? Thank you very much.
Yes.